G'day kids and grown-ups. If you are loving watching and learning with Aussie, it would be amazing if you could please do me a really big favour and just tell anybody else that you think might enjoy it too. In the meantime, enjoy this brand new episode, and as always, stay keen.
Aussie, 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 oi! Aussie is a friend of yours and he's a friend of mine.
G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie.
G'day kids, Aussie here. So we've got a very special book for you today, all about Anzac Day. It's called What Will I See on Anzac Day? And it's written by Emily Elizabeth and illustrated by Natasha Silva. Now you can learn all about Anzac Day on one of Aussie's other awesome videos on our YouTube channel. But just as a reminder, Anzac Day happens on the 25th of April, and it's a national day of remembrance and commemoration for those who have fought or served for our country in wars or peacekeeping operations. Now let's read this really cool book. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see people, young and old, marching together on Anzac Day. Some will be in wheelchairs and cars, while others will be walking. Look, lots of different people. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see flags and banners waving on Anzac Day. Look, we have the Australian flag, the Aboriginal flag, New Zealand flag, and Torres Strait Islander flag. And then these three are military flags and banners. Do you know what ANZAC stands for? Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. So Australia and New Zealand. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see uniforms on Anzac Day. Army uniforms, Navy uniforms, and Air Force uniforms. Police officers, firefighters, paramedics, State Emergency Services or SES, and other community helpers also march alongside the military so we can say thank you for their service. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see medals on Anzac Day. Medals are worn by people who are or used to be in the Navy, the Army or Air Force on the left side of their chest. So this is an illustration of someone that has served in one of those things because they're wearing it on their left side. Family members and friends can also wear the medals on their right side of their chest. See, there's some family members, some young girls here wearing medals on the right side of their chest. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see wreaths and poppy flowers being laid at the cenotaph on Anzac Day. This is a wreath and it says, "Lest we forget." This is a way we remember and say thank you for protecting Australia and our community. A cenotaph is a special memorial to help us remember. And look, these two children are laying wreaths at the cenotaph. And see these flowers that are pinned to their shirts? They're poppy flowers, just like the ones over there. That's something that we use to help remember and honour. What will I see on Anzac Day? I will see horses and dogs walking in the parade on Anzac Day. Look, there's some horses with soldiers on the back and some dogs. Horses, dogs and other animals are part of the military and help with jobs like carrying food, water and other essential supplies. What will I do on Anzac Day? I watch with my family, sometimes in silence and sometimes clapping and waving my flag on Anzac Day. We say thank you and lest we forget to all the people marching. Look, there's some families there and some people honouring and saying thank you. There's some more over here waving their flags. What will I hear on Anzac Day? I will hear a bugle, that's a bugle, bagpipes, and bands playing. There will also be times when I hear nothing on Anzac Day. Silence is for 1 minute, so we can remember all the people and things we saw on Anzac Day. I will hear people say the words, lest we forget. And that's the bugle. And when do we hear that? We hear that when they play the last post. So this is such a great book. There's so much information here so that you can talk about all this stuff with your parents, the grown-ups, or your teachers if you want to learn more about Anzac Day. And then this is just a little bit about the author, Emily. She's a teacher as well, and her dad was actually a Vietnam veteran, so he served in the war. So she likes to do a lot of stuff teaching kids all about the importance of the war and the importance of making sure that we recognise things like Anzac Day. And this is about the illustrator, so Natasha, who drew all the really cool pictures throughout the book, she is actually in the Royal Australian Air Force. So she does that as a job, and she also draws pictures. How cool is that? So kids, I hope you've really enjoyed listening to this book today, and you've got lots of ideas about what Anzac means. And hopefully on Anzac Day, on the 25th of April, you want to celebrate and mark the occasion doing something special with your family. Kids, I hope you enjoy your Anzac Day. We'll see you again on another Story Time with Aussie soon. Until then, stay keen. Hey kids, did you have lots of fun today watching Aussie? I hope so. Did you know that we've got a heap of Aussie episodes on our YouTube channel? If you haven't already, go back and have a scroll through. I reckon you'll find some others that you absolutely love. And while you're there, why don't you hit subscribe? That way you won't miss out on any of our new videos that we bring out. We'll see you again soon, kids. Until then, stay keen. Oh, and by the way, did you happen to find the hidden Aussie icon in that video? Yeah, make sure you look closely because they're in every single video. That's right. Stay keen, kids.
Aussie, 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 oi! Aussie is a friend of yours and he's a friend of mine.
G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day.
G'day kids, Aussie here. Today on Storytime with Aussie, we're going to read a great book about two young boys that grow up together and then go off to war and fight for their country together. It's called Dreaming Soldiers, and it's by Catherine Bauer and Shane McGrath. Jimmy Watson and Jono Hogan were the best of friends. Look, there they are. Swimming in water holes, camping under the stars, and sharing water bottles kind of friends. They helped the stockmen round up the cattle and chase after the breakaways. Look, that's the cattle. That's the cows. And they're on the horses, chasing after them. When Tilly and Tom, the two smallest Hogans, went missing from the station, Jimmy and Jono rode out together to find and bring them home. "Don't you two get into trouble," Mrs. Hogan said whenever Jimmy and Jono went on an adventure. They swung on the high stockyard fences, swishing flies away and watching Mr. Hogan work the cattle dogs. After dinner each night, they sat on the cool veranda, munching Mrs. Hogan's biscuits, or lay by the campfire listening to old Reggie's dreaming stories. There's old Reggie. He's an Aboriginal man telling them dreaming stories. When Jono went off to big school in the city, Jimmy started in the stockyards. The boys missed each other. When Jono came home in the holidays, the pair ran shouting and hooting to the waterhole. Look, they're going fishing. They camped out under the stars and never tired of old Reggie's campfire stories. There's Reggie telling another story. After big school, Jono went away to university. He was away longer now, but always came home for Christmas. Look, there's Jono, and there's Jimmy. They're growing up, they're getting older, but they're still best of mates, aren't they? Jimmy drove with Mr. Hogan to collect Jono from the train. Mr. Hogan told Jimmy to ignore the men who stared as they drove by. Look, all these men, they're not being very kind to the young Aboriginal boy, are they? That's not fair. One year after Christmas, Jono and Jimmy went into town for supplies. Look at all these people. They're soldiers. All these soldiers, they're trying to get people to join the army. They came home to tell everyone they had joined up. "We're in the army," Jono told his mother. "We're off to fight in the war," Jimmy said. It was going to be a big adventure. They'd travel to far off places and get good pay. How their mothers cried. The mothers were pretty upset because the boys were going to go off to fight in the army. "Don't you two get into trouble," Mrs. Hogan said. The pair sailed for distant lands on a big steel ship. Look, there they are, happy about to go on a big adventure, fighting for their country. The desert was hot, like the one Jimmy knew at home, but it was stonier and not the same rich colour he knew so well. Vast oceans, endless skies, and limitless mountain ranges away, the foreign soil exploded under Jimmy's feet. Another ear-splitting whine followed and the ground shook. Lumps of earth flew through the air. It's been an explosion. Jimmy's ears roared as he pulled Jono out of the dirt. "Thanks, that was close," Jono said and swung an arm around his friend. "Shoulder to shoulder, Jono," Jimmy's big grin flashed. "Your mum wouldn't be happy if I let you get into trouble." Days and nights became one. The long days were for fighting or waiting, for cleaning rifles and mending uniforms, for travelling or catching up on sleep. When not blazing with enemy fire, the cool nights were for restoring Jimmy's courage. They were for pacing under the stars on sentry duty, for laughing with mates, and for trying not to think about tomorrow, or his sweetheart Gwenny waiting back on the station. Look, there he is, sitting there, trying to get courage up, be brave for another day of fighting tomorrow, trying not to think too much about Gwenny, which is his girlfriend back at home. The quiet dark was for remembering old Reggie's stories, for thinking of home or for silent unseen tears. Like his ancient sky at home, this foreign sky was big and dark as charcoal, but as hard as Jimmy searched for the Southern Cross, he couldn't find it. He wondered if the same people and creatures from the dreaming stories had shaped this desert too. Look at all the explosions going off into the sky. Sometimes, when the battle was fierce, when the earth burned his throat and when another mate was stretched away, Jimmy wished the ancestral spirits of the dreaming would take him home. But this time was special too, because for the first time, Jimmy was treated just like everyone else. He had a job to do, just like Jono and all the others. So you can see all the soldiers there, and Jimmy and Jono were all equal. They're working together as a team. Didn't matter the colour, whether they were an Aboriginal boy or a white boy. And when it was over, they came home together. Look at that, Jono and Jimmy walking in the door together to their waiting loved ones, ready with big hugs to welcome them home. This little bit here, it's about Indigenous Australians at war. Ever since the South African Boer War in 1899 to 1902, Indigenous Australians have served alongside white Australian soldiers in every conflict and peacekeeping mission in which Australians have been involved. This is in spite of the fact that during the first half of the 1900s, Indigenous men and women were officially banned from serving and didn't share the same rights as white Australians. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people weren't even recognised as Australian citizens until 1967. Isn't that crazy? They could not vote, They were paid less for the same work, and they were excluded from some schools and hospitals, shops and cinemas. Yet thousands did serve with officials turning a blind eye in order to boost Australia's fighting forces. Many young Indigenous men hoped that war service would help their fight for equality and citizenship. Others were simply looking for better pay and a new adventure. Unfortunately, their service and bravery did not immediately result in recognition or equality. Which, years later now, we've learnt was the wrong way to do things, wasn't it, kids? So we know that treating people, whether they had dark skin or Aboriginal background or any other background, is exactly the same as treating a person with white skin. So we're all Australians, we all fight for the same rights and for the same country that we live in, which is called Australia. And that's the way it should be. All treated equally. Kids, I hope you've loved this book, I hope you've learnt lots, and I hope you enjoy learning lots more about Indigenous education and Aboriginal culture. Certainly the things they've done, like fighting for our country in war. We'll see you on another Aussie episode very soon. Until then, stay keen. Hey kids, did you have lots of fun today watching Aussie? I hope so. Did you know that we've got a heap of Aussie episodes on our YouTube channel? If you haven't already, go back and have a scroll through. I reckon you'll find some others that you absolutely love. And while you're there, why don't you hit subscribe? That way you won't miss out on any of our new videos that we bring out. We'll see you again soon, kids. Until then, stay keen. Oh, and by the way, did you happen to find the hidden Aussie icon in that video? Yeah, make sure you look closely because they're in every single video. That's right. Stay keen, kids.
Aussie, 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 oi! Aussie is a friend of yours and he's a friend of mine.
G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie. G'day Aussie.
G'day kids, Aussie here. Now we're going to read a book. And it's called Anzac Biscuits. Let's see what it's all about. And it's by Phil Cummings and Owen Swan. The farm was quiet. Rachel and her mother were in the kitchen. The fire cracked and Rachel was warm. "Let's make some biscuits for Dad," her mother said. "Yes, let's," Rachel cried. The soldier looked across the fields as the night wind howled. There was a blinding flash and a deafening boom, and the young soldier quaked. Rachel's mother put on her apron. It was her favourite, white and patterned with wild flowers. Rachel opened the cupboard. Bowls, pots and pans tumbled to the floor. Bang, crash, bang. Shots rang out. Bang, bang, bang. The soldier lay low. The flowers of the field brushed his grimy cheek. "How much flour?" asked Rachel. "This much," laughed her mother as she covered the table white like a field of snow. "We need oats," her mother added. Rachel scooped them up and dropped them like snowflakes. Snow was falling. The soldier turned his back on the bitter cold. He lifted his collar and lowered his unshaven face to feel the warmth of his own breath. Rachel licked the spoon. Treacle stuck to her fingers. Treacle is another name for golden syrup, which goes in the Anzac bickies. The soldier trudged along the trench. Thick mud stuck to his boots. He doesn't look very happy. It would be tough work over there in the war, wouldn't it? Do you think that could be Rachel's dad? Rachel stoked the fire and smoke drifted around. She loved the smell of burning red gum. There's a soldier, a picture of a soldier on the wall. Do you think maybe that could be the soldier on the other pages? The soldier bravely lifted his head to peer across the fields. The smoke of angry guns drifted like an ocean mist. It was a choking smell he would never forget. Rachel rolled and patted the biscuits. They lay on the tray, ready to slide into the oven. Rachel and her mother twirled and sang Waltzing Matilda. That's a famous Aussie song. The soldier lay still in his cold bed. He saw stars and heard singing. Do you think that could be Rachel's dad? Is he dreaming of home? Thinking about him singing songs at home? The biscuits were cooling, but Rachel took one and nibbled it. "These are the best biscuits ever," she said. "Yes, I think they are," said her mother. "Daddy will love them, won't he?" said Rachel. "I think he will," said her mother. And he did. And it is. It's Rachel's dad, isn't it? And he's enjoying the Anzac biscuits that Rachel and her mum cooked for him. What a beautiful book. Really special, isn't it? While he's over there serving his country and fighting in the war, Rachel and her mother were cooking him biscuits to send over so that he can enjoy a nice treat over there and think of home. We'll see you on our next video, and until then, stay keen. If you haven't already, make sure you get a grown-up to help you hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss out on any of the new and exciting videos that we put out. Speaking of new and exciting, if there's a video that you'd love to see Aussie do, make sure you send us a message on our socials, on Facebook or Instagram at Aussie for Kids. We'll see you again soon, kids. And until then, stay keen. Oh, and by the way, did you happen to find the hidden Aussie icon in that video? Yeah, make sure you look closely because they're in every single video. That's right. Stay keen, kids.
Aussie, 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 oi! Aussie is a friend of yours and he's a friend of